DJ Event Planner will change the way you manage and run your business. Streamline all of your procedures and software into one easy-to-manage system. DJ Event Planner, the ultimate online planning tool.
Good.
Hey, we are back. We found the man, Stevie Ray. Good evening, my friend.
Oh, good to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. You're from Minneapolis. How are things in your neighborhood? Let's touch that one quickly, and then we'll get on to the rest of our show tonight.
I live, my wife and family and I live in a suburb that's pretty far outside
Okay, so you are out of town.
Minneapolis, St. Paul. We do own a rental house that's in Minneapolis proper. And so for the past couple of nights, all the neighbors have been told to bring in their trash bins and any receptacle that could be lit on fire, and to make sure that their garden hoses were hooked up and ready to be turned on, because we were notified that basically roving gangs were going to go up and down alleys and light things on fire and loot houses. We didn't experience any trouble, but it's odd to be driving around and look off in the distance and see sometimes a black cloud over the city from burning buildings.
Yeah, isn't that something?
Yeah, it's not the city we're used to. That's not what Minneapolis is about.
No, typically that's not what we've seen. It's been a crazy time. Speaking of, we've got all sorts of crazy times, and we were just talking a few minutes ago. You've been offering training now in the improv world and the comedy world for a long time. When did you really start getting into that side of things?
For the training side?
Yeah.
When Stevie Ray's improv company first started, we turned 31 years old this August, which is odd because I'm only 25.
Exactly. You look good too. You look fabulous.
Thank you. When we started the organization, my business partner, her name is Pamela, she and I founded it together, and we wanted to use both halves of improv. Most people only know improv through the comedy side, especially because of TV shows like Whose Line Is It Anyway?
Sure.
But most people are not aware that improv was not developed for that initially. The initial purpose of improv techniques and improvisation theory was part of a movement back in the late 1930s of a group of education professionals and psychologists and sociologists were working on something called game theory of education. And it was a way to move away from lecture and toward interactive experiences in order to teach better. And improvisation techniques came out of that largely. And then later on became a theater training tool. And even later after that became more focused on comedy. So when we founded our company, we said, let's go back to the roots of improv and let's do both parts of it, the comedy side and the training side of it. So we've been using improvisational techniques for professional skill building ever since we first opened.
Wow, 31 years. I would have never guessed. If I was thinking, it's like, well, I've known Stevie, and I started as you were talking about that. It's like, wait a second. I think we've been, connected in one way, shape, or form, or doing something. I think it was like 15 to 20 years ago.
Yeah, it's been that long.
It's like, oh wow, we are getting older.
Oh man, when we hit our 30th anniversary last August, we looked at each other and went, "What? When did this happen?"
Exactly. Who left that switch on? I didn't think it was.
Yeah.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, we had a big party and everything, and Pamela and I gave each other a good toast in front of the group, and then she leaned over and said, "I don't want to do this for another 30 years."
It's like probably, none of us want to do it for 30 more years.
No.
We're not that young anymore. So times have changed with COVID, in-person training, which you've been doing for 30 some years. Things have changed now, and now you've moved some things online. Let's talk a little bit about that process.
The Zoom format has turned out to be very effective. I've run a couple of professional development courses. One is for communication skills in difficult situations. That one's called Quick Thinking in Any Situation. And the other one is called Speaking in Public Without Sweating in Private. And that's geared specifically toward speaking to professional groups and associations, public speaking skills.
So is that the public speaking side? Is it for people who want to become a speaker or someone who is already doing speaking and this will help them? Where are you really gearing it towards?
I've run into a lot of different types of folks who are interested. If you have never done it before, it is for, I didn't design it for people who want to become a professional speaker. Okay. That wasn't the goal in mind. It was for anybody who had to speak to a group. So people in corporate settings, people who have to deliver pitches to clients or speeches to coworkers, things like that. But then, as a surprise, a few people joined because they did want to turn their professional skills into something that they could speak professionally for and get paid for it themselves. So kind of goes all over the board.
You mentioned, in essence, making a sales pitch or a sales presentation. I guess I really hadn't even thought about it from that angle. Of course, I'm thinking in front of a crowd speaking. I could see where those skills would be so valuable in a sales presentation.
Well, the thing that I've always said ever since we first started doing this training, especially the speaking training, because I've been a professional speaker for my whole career as well, is that the worst thing to happen to speaker training is high school speech class.
How so?
And that's because they use an old, outdated format, not a lot of updated research. And I'm not trying to speak out of turn because actually a lot of teachers that I've talked to admitted themselves that they're not up to date. But in high school, you learn 1 week, you're going to work on an entertaining speech. Then the next week, you're going to work on an informative speech.
Yes, I remember.
Then the next, it'll be extemporaneous speech, and then a persuasive speech. And they separate it all out as if those are different types of presentations, when the fact is, if you don't have all four every time you talk to somebody, you're losing them. You have to be entertaining. You have to be able to speak off the top of your head. You have to be persuasive. The information has to be presented in a certain way, in a certain flow. Our training uses a lot of research in neuroscience because we want to understand how the brain is triggered to respond. And if you're trying to get somebody to buy your services, hire you, or you're trying to get a certain outcome, you're trying to get a more cooperative relationship, you better know how persuasion works. So the speaking class does deal a lot with the art of persuasion. So that kind of all folds in, and most speaking training doesn't recognize the persuasive element of speaking to either one person or a group.
And you guys will be covering that in your in your presentation.
Yes, we cover the influence part of the course covers the two main approaches to persuasion, and which of those two approaches you use depends entirely upon the position that the other person holds about your message. And then no matter which of those two approaches you use, there are what is called the 5 steps of persuasion. That's not designed by me. That was discovered by psychologists decades ago. If you present information in order, using the 5 steps in the right order, and use all 5 of the steps, you get a much better outcome. Trouble is, most people don't know what all the 5 steps are, and some who know some of them put them in the wrong order.
Okay.
And if you do that, you automatically increase resistance. And then the job is much more difficult. You have to work a lot harder. And then you also have to fall back on things you don't want to have to, which include use of authority. Look, I'm a professional in this. Trust me. That works. Authority is a very effective persuasive tool. However, it's got a high rate of distrust in the long run.
Certainly.
And you get a shorter term relationship.
I could definitely see that, and we can see examples of that in different levels of leadership throughout our lives. I mean, from as principal in a school who, I've got the role because I've got that plaque on the wall. Yeah, you can see those situations.
Yeah, look at politics right now. You see it all over the place.
I just want to go there because
Let's not do that.
We could be here for a while with that one.
Yes.
So with the speaking course, if someone has that phobia or that I just would die if I had to be in front of a crew, but they know that this is something they need to do for whether it's for their job or for really their desire to be something. Is this a spot where they're going to be able to come in and help to conquer that fear?
Yes. Basically, the human brain reacts to different situations depending on the cues you give it. And one, if you do the two parts of a good presentation, what you say, then how you say it, you have to pay attention to both of those. The reason most people freak out is they pay way too much attention on only what am I going to say. And that way, when they get up there, they don't really feel comfortable in saying it. And also, at one point, there's a law of diminishing returns. The more you review your material, actually what you're telling yourself is, I'm going to screw this up. Instead of realizing you're not going to go through this material smoothly. The audience doesn't care. If you're too smooth, we don't trust you. I mean, when we talk about politics, you look at the politicians you don't trust. A lot of them are too smooth. They don't feel like your friend. And also, there are a few tricks we teach people that get rid of the fear and apprehension of speaking. And these were tricks designed by neuroscience, understanding how the brain will trigger itself into a place of confidence instead of fear. And you can actually trick your brain to do better work than you might think.
Interesting. That will be part of the public or speaking in public without sweating in private.
Yes.
That's going to be starting June 10th. That is a 4-week course. And again, the link is in the description for you guys who want to go and click on that and check that out. But that's not the only course you're going to be offering online here this summer. Let's talk a little bit about the quick thinking for any situation.
That one is an interesting approach because it really depends on the participant's reason for joining. Everybody's in a different situation in which they have to think quickly and handle tough situations on the spot. I usually ask people, when was the last time you were stuck and didn't know what to say until you finally thought of the perfect response on the drive home?
Yeah.
Well, that's because of one particular brain function that you need in order to think quickly and handle tough spots. The brain operates in two different fashions, two different functions, basically. The majority of the time, we're in what's called cognitive function, which is thinking. You're getting tasks done. You're working on a report, or you're reading a book, or you're doing a spreadsheet. That cognitive function is important for being productive, but it doesn't help us communicate well with other people, and it's lousy at handling surprises. So you need to go into what's called whole brain function. That's when every part of the brain wakes up at the same time, starts cross-connecting and communicating, and helps you be more nimble. There are tricks and games you can play called whole brain games or whole brain exercises that get your brain working at top speed. They're a lot of fun. They're not like the brain games you see on TV, like Lumosity.com, things like that. Those are meant to build cognitive function. They have nothing to do with whole brain. This is an entirely different approach, actually a lot more fun. And when you learn these, you become a lot less stressed when somebody hits you with a surprise or is not cooperative or basically kind of hits your trigger spots that send you into a panic.
Interesting. So because most of our audience tonight are mobile entertainers, whether it's in the DJ or in the photo booth. They're basically people who are working with an audience at a time, whether it's in smaller groups or larger groups. So this is really going to be the time when someone throws something out at you, you'll be able to handle it with more confidence.
The trouble with most professions, and not just mobile DJs, but mobile DJs definitely fit in this challenge. And the challenge is you're used to doing things a certain way that work for you and have worked for your clients. So over a span of time, you gain experience saying, I know how this best works. The trouble with that is when somebody comes and asks you to step outside of that, how effective are you in following along? Or if somebody makes a request and you know it's going to ruin things, how do you respond to that person and still keep them satisfied, even though the answer is no? So mobile DJs have a specific challenge in that they not only deal with the crowd and the audience, they have private conversations and consultations with the clients one-on-one or two-on-one to sell their services.
Yes.
Then they have the group thing. And then they have the solo thing when somebody comes up to the desk, to the station and has a request. Then they got side conversations, mother of the bride over here, father of the groom over there. You're going from group to solo all the time. Being able to keep your brain nimble in a space that you are used to controlling is a real trick. And so there are a lot of different ways to manage that.
Yeah, the being nimble, I think, is probably, from my personal experience over the years, is something that is critical. But I've found myself in that on the way home time way too often, whether it's from a sales meeting or from an event, where it's like, oh man, if I just would have.
Exactly. We try to get rid of those moments.
Excellent. And that class, then, let me get back to the schedule here. That's going to be starting again next week, next Thursday night. And these are 1-hour sessions for 4 weeks, 4 consecutive weeks. So, Stevie, if people, they can go, do you still have spots remaining, I'm guessing, for the 2 courses?
Yes, we do. We do limit the participants because this is not a presentation style course where you just tune in and listen. This is highly interactive and consultative. I don't want to just talk. I want to hear people's concerns. The people that we've trained up to this point in the other courses have all said, this is exactly what I'm dealing with. Can you help me with that?
Sure.
And that's what I love the most. So that's why we limit the number of participants, so everybody gets a chance to feel like they've been personally served.
Excellent. And again, the link to go check things out, find out the course descriptions, or to register is in the description below of the video. You guys can go click on that. Stevie, we're going to, just before we wrap things up, as we continue down on the registration page, you also do some things with Improv. We have got viewers literally around the world, but we have viewers, around the United States. And that's something we kind of talked about just a little bit before we go on, is Improv, and over your 30 some years, has been face-to-face. Is Improv something that there is a level of training that would be available in a future online course, possibly?
Yeah, we have been teaching stand-up comedy classes for people who are not only aspiring stand-ups. We get a lot of people who want to learn the art of humor for their own use, and they don't want to go to a comedy club or become a stand-up comedian. In fact, I would say about 80% of our students don't actually want to be a comedian. They just want to understand humor because it's such a powerful tool.
Certainly.
So those online courses have been very successful. We're in the process now of developing an online improv course and modeling it after some of the more larger organizations around the country, like Second City, places like that. We try to consult and collaborate with larger organizations. So that's something we're looking for toward the middle of summer.
Excellent. And when you have that information ready to go, we'll definitely have you back on, because there are so many skills within that realm that fit to what we do.
That's your whole job, is improv.
Yeah, as a wedding and MC, or even in a bar when they're on a microphone. Yeah, it's a big part of it. Stevie Ray's with the plural, which would be '*s.org, is the main website. You guys can pop out there. And again, the link for all the classes are in the description. Great stuff. It sounds like there's going to be some fun things. If the classes fill up, are you guys going to be adding additional classes?
Oh yeah, if they fill up, we don't like to say no to people.
Okay.
So we will make more. We're like the Keebler elves. We can always make more cookies.
Exactly, and doing things online is so convenient. Was there an email on the website or some way? There we go. Yes. At the very bottom of that page, where you go to register or to click to check out the course descriptions, there's Stevie's email address, stevie@stevierays.org. You guys can go, and if you have questions, phone numbers there, emails there, reach out to Stevie and ask the questions, and who knows, maybe there's another night and there's a group of people who want to take the class, and you guys can
That'd be great.
Yep, whatever works. So, Stevie, thanks for being on with me tonight.
I so appreciate you having me. This was fun.
Yeah, this was good, and we should come back and actually have a topic on a night Well, we're going to a business thing because I enjoy your presentations that you've done with us over the years on the business side of things with your diverse knowledge. So,
well, I love working with folks like mobile DJs because they're in an industry quite like my own where you only eat what you kill. So let's all learn how to hunt better.
That sounds great. Stevie, once again, thank you very much. Gang, we'll be back here at the top of the hour with our second show tonight, talking about some of the paperwork we need to do to get our business going. Thanks again, Stevie.
Thank you.